Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Witcher 2 Dark Mode difficulty video walkthrough. This is the beginning of Chapter 2, this is the prelude to the war in Aedirn. We're controlling a prince, and we're following a lady called Saskia. And this is, I believe his name is Stannis. And this is the part of the game that's going to deviate depending on which direction you go. If you follow Roche's path, you will be the other side of this war. So you'll be controlling the other side of the conflict. But on Iorveth, you're going to be where we are right now. And they're going to a treaty signing with the rival army, trying to negotiate, terms so that they don't have to go to this war, essentially. But it doesn't go well, and it ends up unleashing an ancient magic of sorts, which takes the form of this mist, where this endless battle is happening. And in this video we're going to be doing a little bit of a one-on-one fight, which is a cool idea, because I like the fact the game puts you in the hands of different characters when it needs you to for story reasons. Yeah, you might be wondering why I was walking into a wall then. Whenever there's these slow walking moments, I generally mess with my computer while they're happening, so you'll have to bear with that.
We have guests. Welcome, Stannis.
But these areas of the game are oversighted again somehow, and I don't know how, because you can't roll. And I understand this guy's clad in armor, I understand that, but even so, why can't you roll? It makes no sense. And all my strategies on Witcher involve rolling, and when you can't do it, it's this awkward, awful, atrocious combat system that is broken. Because you'll notice just then, because I couldn't roll away after I hit that King Henselt, I turned around to run away, and it gave him a massive critical on my back, which ended that section and put us to this point, because it doesn't really matter what you do in that mode. It's just fucking stupid. Completely and utterly stupid. And I don't understand it. The only thing I could think is because the developers wanted it just to be more about storyline than actual gameplay, that they didn't really think you would need to roll, so they limited it and they didn't give you the option. Because either that or, Stannis has got really weak knees, or, I don't know, he's afraid of grass. I'm not too sure, it doesn't make sense, and it irks me, so there you go. But this is the eternal battlefield, which just means that these ghosts materialize of the dead soldiers that fought in the original battle, and they will assail you for all the time that you're here. So for this first sequence, we need to protect Saskia, which is not really challenging because I don't think she can die, but don't hold me to that, because if you try you might be able to get her dead. And in order to do this, it involves clearing out the enemies. So there's a couple of standard soldiers, and then this Druiga guy turns up. And the fun thing about him is he's just as susceptible to stun and instant kills as anyone else, even though he's this giant fridge of broken parts. But one of the cool parts about this sequence in particular is you can pick up weapons. You can pick up some stuff. And for instance, if Stannis dies on this part, if you're doing the Roche side, you can pick up Stannis' sword and immediately at the beginning of the chapter have a decent weapon, a decent steel sword, which is kind of cool. But you'll notice the sequence has changed. Instead of us just being assailed by demons and ghosts, we've now got Philippa, who's managed to morph herself into an owl, and she's going to protect you as a familiar that fires lightning. And there's an achievement on this game for, I believe, is it hitting or killing a certain amount of enemies without taking damage in a row? This is probably a really easy place to do it. On my playthrough I ended up getting it against the Neckers in the Necker contract in Flotsam, but this is equally as easy because they're very weak and the owl's going to help you a lot, so you can just hit and run. But every so often Philippa's going to get constricted by the wraiths. You'll notice they're doing Ghostbuster spells to try and trap her in the air. And if you kill the wraiths, it'll release her and it'll get rid of all the enemies like that. So you don't even have to bother focusing on the Droiga or any of the other shit that spawns if it does spawn. And if I had one criticism of this entire sequence, it'd be it just lasts a little bit too long. It's a really cool idea, it looks visually quite nice, which makes me think on PC it probably looks goddamn beautiful, but it overstays its welcome. and it's not the first time you're going to be coming through here either, so it's one of those really cool ideas that brevity would have benefited. But I'm going to be covering some Dark Souls on the channel, probably just some PvE stuff, because I want an opportunity to talk about Dark Souls 2 and just Dark Souls in general. Kind of sum up before the new game comes out, because when Dark Souls comes out, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard on the channel. It's going to be probably nothing but Dark Souls for a very long time. And I know there's a lot of people that are subscribed to me that aren't here to watch just Dark Souls. You know, there's some people that watch it with no interest of playing, and there are other people that don't even watch it, I guess. You know, I've got quite a few subscribers, and not all of them watch everything. I understand that, and Dark Souls is probably something that somebody avoids. So with Dark Souls 2, all the people that come for that content are going to be really stoked and really excited because you're going to get a lot of it, but everybody else is just going to have to be patient. So I think I'm going to release a video trying to, you know, elucidate this fact, try and get it out there, try and get people prepared, and I probably will still have other projects happening, and I'll try and intersperse them as much as I can, just to give some diversity, so it's not too full on, but it all depends on how deep I get. You know, if Dark Souls 2 comes out and I don't like it, then I'll probably cover it as much as I can professionally, and then I'll not touch it too much at all. But if it comes out and it's, you know, like the second coming of Jesus, I'm probably going to be deep, really quickly. So, it's just something that people are going to have to put up with. But I do like to think I've got a lot of people onto it who perhaps didn't have an interest in it, like a guy called Ego Zeno did to me. Because I get a lot of comments of people saying, you know, that I got them into Dark Souls, or I made them actually try and play it, and it turned out they enjoyed it, and it weren't as bad as everybody said. That's one of the strange things about a lot of the media for Dark Souls 2. You know, they're trying to put this emphasis that the difficulty's still there because of some of the, you know, the poorly worded interviews early on that made a lot of the fans, you know, come up in uproar. But at the same time, I kind of wish they weren't completely emphasising the death aspect of it, because it seems really cliche at this point. Anybody who's heard of Dark Souls or Demon Souls knows that these games are tough. They know they're challenging, they know the emphasis on them is that you die a lot until you learn to not die. So, I don't really get ramming it into the ground again. You know, prepare to die is Dark Souls in a T. You know, the whole notion of prepare to go beyond death to me just sounds like a bunch of marketing guys trying to get the same oomph with nowhere near as good a catchphrase. You know, prepare to go beyond death sounds like a funeral parlour, like Pinewood Company. It does nothing for me, and I think the difficulty and the way that they focus on it, and they focus on it in an almost negative way, puts a lot of people off. And they keep saying how they're trying to make Dark Souls more accessible with the stuff they're adding to it. They're not making it easier, they're making it more accessible. Yet, all the promotional stuff they've put out there is people getting shit-fisted. Constantly, you know? And I think it's kind of it's contradiction to me to have this cognitive dissonance of we want it to be still hard but more accessible, yet all we've shown you is how much it's going to kill everything you love. And I just don't really understand the value of that marketing when everybody already knows that's the case, and all you're doing now is scaring potential buyers. And to me, I think it's kind of foolish, because I think they should have focused on, you know, the things that are different, you know, how the challenge is really high but really rewarding, you know, how you get no feeling like it when you persevere and you succeed. I don't think there should be just, you know, dead, shit player dead, because I think it's a little bit too much. But that's just me, you know. I understand it, I just don't agree with it. Thank you for watching, you take care now.